I'm Associate Professor Ken Harvey at the School of Public Health at Monash University, and I'm going to march for science because I believe that we've got to push science as against, particularly in a post-truth era, and we've got to convince politicians to listen to science rather than non-evidence-based rubbish. In medical school, I married in third year, and a fellow medical student. We wanted adventure. We went to Papua New Guinea. There was plenty of adventure and plenty of infectious diseases. So I got interested in infectious diseases, came back to Sydney, specialised, ended up in Melbourne at the Royal Melbourne Hospital, and again was fascinated by antibiotic-resistant germs. Our colleagues were prescribing the latest and most expensive drugs. We were recommending older, narrow-spectrum drugs, and this difference intrigued me. And it was actually the pharmaceutical industry advertising that was a major factor in that usage. We said use old drugs, keep narrow-spectrum, keep broad-spectrum antibiotics in reserve. The industry said, you can't afford to be wrong, use our expensive blundermycin, which got me interested in pharmaceutical promotion and the pressures of industry on decision-making. The Therapeutic Goods Administration, or the TGA, is Australia's regulator of therapeutic goods, which is both medicines and devices. And in theory, at least, these goods shouldn't be on the Australian market and shouldn't be available to consumers unless they've been checked out by the TGA. If we go to prescription medicines, which are largely registered medicines, they're thoroughly evaluated by the TGA for quality, safety and efficacy. It can take quite a long time, a lot of scientific studies to get those products onto the market and get the approval of the TGA. But complementary medicines are different. They're so-called listed medicines. There's no pre-market assessment whatever. There are some small checks and balances in the sense that the ingredients are meant to come from a list of relatively safe ingredients the TGA has, and they're meant to be produced under good manufacturing practice. But the only rules that the TGA has is that the sponsor or the manufacturer must fill out a web-based form and tick boxes to certify that all these things have happened. There's a huge number of products on the market, 11,000 products. Not surprising, if you've got a system that's based on trust, that there's no pre-market assessment, and there's very little post-market assessment. And what post-market assessment there is, the TGA does a few post-market reviews. So they look at about 400. Last year they looked at about 400 complementary medicines or listed products, 80% non-compliance, of which most of the problems, although not all, were lack of evidence to justify the claims. The only other checks and balances is a complaint process. And again, that's overloaded, understaffed and slow. It runs at a 98% complaints are upheld. If you just have no checks and balances and have a system that allows people to make money, then they'll break the rules with impunity. There are a number of suggestions and a number of consultations ongoing, which, if the suggestions and recommendations are upheld, I think we might substantially improve the situation. So the first proposal is let's limit what they can say to a predefined list, a small list of permitted indications. This product may assist. This product may help. And I think that's sort of appropriate. May, also may not, if the evidence has not been looked at. The second proposal is to, if the sponsors or manufacturers do think they've got good evidence, and to encourage them to do clinical trials, there's a new pathway in which they can submit the evidence. It will be looked at by the TGA, and if it gets up, this is a bit like prescription drugs, if the evidence is thought to be satisfactory, then the companies can make higher level claims, and also that will have some indication, perhaps in a symbol or a logo, that this has been assessed by the TGA to help assist consumers to sort out the wheat from the chaff. And intellectual property protection is also given to make sure that people can't freeload on their research. And with all that, of course, is the need for advertising reforms and to have significant penalties for people that breach the rules. So this is all up for discussion. Ultimately, it's going to go to the Minister and the Government. And we hope that the response will be a little different to some of the responses to evidence-based reviews in the past. Well, I work with Choice, the Australian Consumers Association. I work with the Consumers Health Forum. I work with Friends of Science and Medicine. And all of these bodies and groups are engaged in advocacy and sometimes also in political lobbying. And it's important. Because we know that on public health issues, and no matter whether it's pharmaceuticals, complementary medicines, gambling, alcohol, tobacco, there are powerful entrenched interest groups that fight for the status quo, that are making a lot of money out of the existing system and don't care at all about what impact their particular activities might have on consumers. And so public health people have got to be advocates and they've got to be politically active, in my view. Look, Australia's got a proud record in public health and in science and advocacy. I mean, I think we've led the world in things like tobacco control. We're doing reasonably well in alcohol. We've got a long way to go in gambling. As I say, I think we're making some progress in pharmaceuticals. So I think Australia does punch above its weight in terms of the impact of its scientists. Global warming is another example. We don't punch above our weight in terms of the politicians actually going along with this. But again, I think that's just another reason why we've got to be into advocacy and we've just got to do more marching on the streets. We need to get the politicians to take science seriously.